At first, the voice sounded soothing. A soft cough broke the silence of the Pasadena night. This mother of two is not very noteworthy. The exhaustion of long days, the strain of nursing at night, and the never-ending assault of little hands biting at her. The ever-calm Jinger Duggar Vuolo said that the only way to ease the agony was to apply a warm compress and say a prayer. But in less than a day, that rumble turned into a hurricane. She shivered through 3 layers of clothing. The summer in Los Angeles. Her eyes dilated, her face flushed, and her pulse thumped beneath her weak wrists. Jeremy was the first to notice that her voice was becoming weaker as she started to lose the intensity of her laughter. He took immediate action when her temperature hit 103.7. As if trying to get away from something, he picked her up and put her in the car, much like he had done on their wedding night. That night, the emergency department was unusually quiet. Lights buzzed overhead, casting bright halos on the immaculate floor tiles. Despite the nurse's meticulous motions, Jeremy could hardly hear the beat of his own heart. He held her hot hand and read her passages from the Bible, while they carried Jinger away. He had felt her vitality propel him onward for years, but now he felt nothing. She was going to tumble. The fever continued. I was coughing uncontrollably. Her lips would ordinarily be red from laughing, but she said nothing. It was determined to be a severe viral fever. Something made her immune system to overreact, but it wasn't pneumonia or COVID. The doctors stayed composed, but Jeremy was terrified. Monitor, they said. Then he said, mercy. Outside her door, Jeremy paced the hallway like a man praying on the edge of a precipice. He had been a pastor, crisis counselor, and author of books on faith and tenacity for many years. But what is it now? He was just a husband who observed his wife and gasped in pain. Degrade. Word traveled fast in Arkansas. When Jill heard Joanna's voice break on the phone, she quickly called Jeremy and asked him, how bad? Could she inhale deeply? We stand in prayer. Even the normally quiet Jana left a note. The public speaker was startled by a hardly audible prayer. The sisters had gone through years of criticism, silence, and personal development. Regardless of how complicated the issues are, illness always successfully reunites families. But in spite of the burning heat, Jinger's mind drifted to a deeper realm. She hopped from the present to the past through the haze of her pain and drugs. She recalled her early years, when her family's house was always a flurry of activity, and the sound of baby cries and laughter filled the air. She could still hear her dad's voice getting louder and louder, and smell her mom's perfume when she was at church. Assured, amid the lights and lace on her wedding day, she remembered how Jeremy's hand trembled as he put the ring on her finger. However, her thoughts suddenly turned serious as she felt under pressure to be perfect and focused without wavering. She lived in continual fear of damnation for all those years. The burden of meekness, modesty, and submissiveness. It was the independence she had fought so hard for. She opened her eyes to find Jeremy seated next to her, a Bible in her hand. Fingers. He recited Psalm 23 in a hushed voice. He completed it even though his voice broke. I'm traversing the shadow of death. I am unafraid in the face of evil because I am with you. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out but a gasp. Jeremy could hear the faintest sound as he moved closer. Amen. 3 days went by in a dull manner. The lights in her room were constantly on no matter what. Nurses arrived to deliver fluids, oxygen, and drugs to reduce fever. Went. Before the sun rose every morning, Jeremy would get dressed and come back to her bedside. There he would stroke her hair back and pray over her lifeless body. Her world stayed silent, her phone went silent, and he made sure her daughter was safe. Fans conjectured outside. Was it terrible, in your opinion? Has she passed away? Some trolls spread false information, while others spread love. But in this instance, it didn't matter. Fever and faith fought like angelic beings in room 402. It was different in the dark. The tide changed on the morning of the 4th. She was feverish, but it had mostly gone away. Her respiratory rate dropped after 101 seconds. She regained her color. She danced with her deft fingers. Jeremy cried a little when she opened her eyes and looked at him squarely. In a hoarse voice she questioned, "Is it over?" He was unable to articulate his response. "You're not gone." It would take a lot of time to get better. Her body would require time to heal and grow more resilient. However, her spirit had just come out of a searing ordeal. Later that day, Jinger sat up for the first time, not very well, but awake, in the golden light of the hospital windows. The nurses couldn't be happier. With the compassion and care of a guy who hadn't experienced touch in a long time. Jeremy leaned over the side of the bed and kissed her forehead. He pushed her into the hallway for a little workout that afternoon. While he carefully led her, she rested on his chest outside the windows. Outside, the gentle clouds drifted like promises in the endlessly blue sky over California. A good friend from church was watching over Felicity and Evangeline while they were at home. Even though they didn't fully understand what had happened to their mother, they prayed with Jeremy's mother every night. Their small hands clasped together, and their large eyes focused on the sky. Incredibly, the wishes had suddenly been fulfilled. When you get back, Jinger went to her hospital room and asked for a pen. She was still resting and recovering when she wrote in the small leather journal that Jeremy had given her a few months prior. Up until today, she had not opened it. Her writing was shaky, but it was important. 4 pages were devoted to her reflections on God's love, kindness, control, and surrender. She had never felt more free, even though she was in a hospital bed. Additionally, this concerned the same type of fear that had. Her faith was always defined. That evening, Jinger gazed calmly out the window while Jeremy went outside to answer a call. Despite her pale skin and 4 fluid-injured limbs, her eyes never wavered. At that time, she wasn't a mother, a memoirist, or a reality TV personality. All she was a lady who had beaten death. The next morning, a bloom arrived from Arkansas. "We love you" was the only handwritten inscription on it, and the name was missing. "Our business is praying. Get well soon." There was no signature, but Jinger could read the penmanship. There was no space for doubt with Michelle. She let out a little cry. It was a yearning for a release rather than a sign of melancholy. She was discharged from the hospital 2 days later. Jeremy was in a wheelchair with her, holding her hands tightly. Their girls were about to have a nervous breakdown at home. As they made their way back to their quiet neighborhood, they could feel the soft rays of the sun shining through the sycamores and breathe in the scent of vanilla and lavender as they walked into their house. Jinger started by cramming her girls together for a long time. She kept the details to herself. She wasn't needed because kids know when their loved ones feel the same way. What is Jeremy's current position? He looked at her like a man who had lost almost everything and didn't want to waste any more time. Jinger stayed out of the spotlight for the following 2 weeks, posting nothing and not updating her followers. She relaxed during a quiet time of recovery. She read the Bible in the mornings. She would sit down with her pen and notebook every afternoon. She helped with my bodily and spiritual healing, layer peeling, and renewal by waiting for Jeremy to bring her tea while she sat barefoot in the garden as the sun set. In the weeks that followed, she went back to writing for herself, not for readers or publishers. She explained how she was led through feverish nights by the deity she had feared, and brought her and her family back together. And she talked about how, in spite of her infirmity, she had grown graceful. When she eventually went back to social media, she just posted a picture of her hand laying on a hospital blanket with Jeremy's palm wrapped around it. "He was strong, and I was weak. Thanks for praying for me," the text read. "Even though I'm still recovering, I'm incredibly thankful to be here." A lot of people responded. Friends, admirers, and bystanders who had seen. Thousands of comments were posted after her spiritual liberation and subsequent ascent into the light. Her bravery was praised. She was considered fortunate by all. However, Jinger didn't think of herself as such a person. She sensed it. Her loving spouse held her in the air, under the watchful eye of a God, bolstered by an underlying grace that finally felt real. And perhaps this was the story she was destined to tell. This is not a romantic movie. The silent, the awful reality of being disassembled, and then meticulously reassembled. Not the overthrow of a system. It's out of love, not fear. This rumor has been put to rest. If you liked the video, please leave a comment with your ideas. If you would want to stay tuned, please subscribe to our channel.